So just some things to get us started. We are going to share a PDF of the slide deck with you, so don't freak out about taking a ton of notes or screenshots. You don't need to worry about that. And this is pre-approved for both SHRM and HRCI recertification credits. So we'll send you certificates of completion with those codes, but it takes us a few days, especially today, because I have this gig. I have a gig this afternoon that you're all welcome to attend. Tiff will post the link in the chat room, but I'm giving a talk on FMLA and ADA and what they are and how they overlap and what happens when they collide and all that stuff. And there's 600 folks coming to that through GoTo plus LinkedIn Live, and then a podcast interview. So today's a busy day, so you're not getting your certificates today. If you have any questions as we go, you're welcome to interrupt me or put them in the chat room, and I'm going to try to pay attention to that while we do everything else. Does that seem okay for ground rules? So you don't have to wait till the very end. Interactive is great. So what I want to talk with you about today is driving success and how you can use goal management to boost engagement. I think one of the things I find as I talk to companies all over the country is everybody does performance management of some sort, and most folks focus on a performance review form, but it doesn't actually improve the performance of the organization at all in most cases. It's sort of this formality that we go through, but it doesn't really boost performance. I think one of the keys to boosting performance is to get people engaged, and you can get people engaged when you're using goals. So let's talk a little bit about that. I think Natalie started us off by saying, I don't want you to think of yourselves as HR professionals. And that's usually the first thing I ask in a session. I did it the first time at a mega session at SHRM. So that's about 5,000 to 9,000 folks. And the SHRM board sits on a table, like at the side of those giant rooms when you have the keynotes in the mega. And I said, how many of you would say you're an HR professional? And everybody raised their hand, and it's exciting, and it's at SHRM, and everybody's going crazy. And I said, I never want you to say that again. Never again do you admit you're an HR professional. And I thought the people on the SHRM board were going to have a collapse and die right on this podium. It was shocking. I don't want you to think of yourselves as HR professionals, and don't hate me for that. But surveys by SHRM, by HRCI of the C-suite, when they say, what do you think about HR professionals? They basically come back and say they're the people that hire and fire and just say no. No, you can't have a barbecue grill in the parking lot. No, you can't bring a fish to work. No, you can't wear that. No, you can't say this. No, you can't ask that. That's not helping them achieve their vision. So for at least this hour with me, I really want you to think of yourselves as a business professional with expertise in HR. You help a company achieve its vision by finding the right talent and recruiting them and onboarding them and developing them and keeping them engaged for them to do their mission every day while helping them adhere to their values. That's a little bit different. That's somebody who impacts the business and just doesn't hire and fire. And I get it, because I ask HR folks, why'd you get into the field of HR? And they're like, oh, I'm a people person. And that's good to hear, but don't say it in an interview. It's not going to work. You are there because you help an organization achieve its vision because you're really good at working with people. It's just a little bit of a different mindset, if that's okay. So one of the things I want to start out with here is, why do we care that people are engaged? You can't go to your management and say, hey, I want to start a new program. Either it's going to cost time, people, or money. It's going to take resources. And we should do it because it's going to boost engagement, and engagement is nice. That's not going to fly. So you have to build a business case. This study's a little bit old, but the numbers have been holding steady for about 5 years now. Cone Communications said organizations with highly engaged employees had an average 3-year revenue growth that was more than 2 times greater than those whose employees had average engagement. That's a reason you boost engagement. It boosts the bottom line. It generates revenue. 71% of people surveyed by the Harvard Business Review said that employee engagement is absolutely indispensable to a company's success. And this was the C-suite that said this. And I think this guy from SAP, David Swanson, gets it. If employees are not constantly thinking about how they could do their work better and be more efficient, the company has already lost the battle. These are the reasons why we want to boost employee engagement. So now let's talk about, what is employee engagement? It's the extent to which employees feel passionate about their jobs and they're committed to the organization. And that extra little oomph they put into their work, it is not the same as employee satisfaction. When I go out and work with companies, because I'm like freakishly nervous about being late and missing the boat, I'll fly out to a place the day before, and then I always go see where I'm going to go meet. Does anybody else do that? Tell me in the chat room. If you have a meeting and you arrive in a city the day before, do you go like make sure you know how to get there? I do. I can't help it. Well, sometimes when I have a meeting, I'll go early or I'll stay late, and I just like to watch. I love watching people. If you're at an organization where people are flying into the parking lot to get to work at 9 o'clock, but they sit in their car till 8:55, those folks are not engaged. If they're killing you to get to the elevator buttons to leave at 6, the odds are they're not engaged. I'm not saying engagement is the same as being a workaholic, but it's the folks who get so into their job, they really, really are executing on the organization's vision. I'm going to tell you a funky story. So in that long intro bio they gave you, they didn't mention that on the side as a hobby, I do arts and crafts. And so if you're a crafter, you might have seen me on Make It Artsy, which is nationally aired on PBS and on the Create DIY channel. So if I turned off my fake background, you'd see all kinds of cutting machines. If you use a Brother Scan and Cut, I design the projects that are on their box. I've had product lines out in the stores. So I always say I'm a crafty guy. So I took my team for my real job out to lunch at Montana's, I think it's called Montana's Grill or something like that here in Columbus. If you've ever been to that restaurant, instead of a tablecloth, they have like brown paper that's stamped with vintage advertising. Does that make sense? Can any of you picture that? So when I sat down with my team and I saw that paper, I thought, oh, I could use that paper on the TV show. Like I could cover a bookcase with it or something, or, a box. How cool is this? So I joked and told the team, okay, nobody order anything messy. You can't have soup, you can't have salad, you can't have anything that drips. If anybody drips on this piece of paper, you're fired. You're all done, we're done. And it became a joke during the whole lunch. Like somebody would go to order spaghetti. I'd be like, not spaghetti, are you kidding me? That's gonna get sauce everywhere. Nope, can't do that. So at the end of the meal, I asked the server, I said, but is there any chance I could get a piece of this paper? Because I do arts and crafts and I'd love to cover a piece of furniture with it. And the server said, sure, how many feet would you like? Now that's a shock right off the bat, right? So I'm like, wow, ooh, wow. How about, I don't know, 10 feet? Because I could do a whole bookcase. And the server was like, sure, that's fine. So I go watch them go over to a big roll and pull that paper off. Another server got on the other end and tried to help manage such a long piece, right? And as they tore it, she folded it in half and started to put a crease in it. And admittedly, a little bit of me died because I thought, oh no, it has a crease. How am I going to use this on furniture or a show? This is going to work. And the server said, no, stop. He doesn't want to fold in it. He's using it for art. Let's get another piece. So they got another piece. Then he rolled it up and I'm ecstatic now. And he comes to the table with this roll. And I thought that would be the end of this interaction. And he said, here, can you hold on for this a second? I'm going to go see if I can find a couple rubber bands so it's easier for you to take home. That employee is engaged. I'm sure when they trained him at Ted's Montana Grill, they didn't say, you're going to get some nut job that wants a piece of this paper to do a craft project, right? That was not part of his training. But he gets the vision. The vision of Ted's Montana Grill is to provide a phenomenal dining experience for its guests with great food and blah, blah, blah. He got the vision, right? It was no big deal for him to say, you can have the piece of that paper. He didn't go ask a manager. He just did the right thing to help fulfill that mission. And I've told this story to thousands of people. I've written the owners of Ted Montana's Grill. That employee is fully engaged because he was thinking about the big picture, not just my job is to take your order and bring the food and give you a check. Does that make any sense? That's going that extra mile. And it's more than just, do I like my job? And there are great examples of this, and it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. There are a lot of companies out there that are really acknowledged about the way they keep their employees engaged and passionate about their work. The little things that they do to get their employees to go that extra mile. So I want to give you some examples. One of my favorites is Full Contact. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but they give their employees $7,500 a year to take a paid vacation. Just think about that. They literally pay you to go on holiday. Now, there are rules. There are rules. You actually have to go somewhere. You can't stay home. And you can't do any work-related stuff. You can't answer work phone calls. You can't check your email. You can't get on Teams, nothing. If you do any of those things, you don't get the $7,500. That's kind of amazing to me. And what they found is that their employees actually believe the organization feels like we can go on vacation and it's okay. And they come back ready and committed towards helping the organization achieve its vision. They come back with a fresh outlook, right? They eliminate that whole issue of people thinking, I'm the only one who can solve this problem. I have to be reachable. I have to check my email just 10 minutes every day. Okay, guys, I'm on vacation with the whole family, but just 10 minutes. I'm just going to check really, really quick, or I'm going to use my phone really, really quick. It kind of eliminates that whole pressure. Now, you may not have the budget to give folks a paid vacation, but I just love that concept. Southwest Airlines is another one. Have any of you ever flown Southwest? Tell me in the chat room if you've flown Southwest. And have you ever had one of their attendants who sings that emergency song about, you know, the aisles and the exits and everything? They're not trained to make it a comedy routine or sing, right? That's just something they do. But Southwest builds that culture. They've set the bar incredibly high. They've given employees a lot of autonomy over different parts of their work life. So as an example, they help design their own uniforms. That's kind of cool, right? You know, that it just, you know, they learn how to rap the safety song. That's kind of cool. Southwest, every week their CEO gives a shout out by publicly praising employees that have gone above and beyond. They used to have that magazine. I haven't flown Southwest in a while, so I don't know if they still have that magazine in the seat pockets, but they recognized an employee in that magazine every month. That's incredibly cool. And you could say, well, you know, we don't have a magazine. I bet you have a Facebook page. That's free. A LinkedIn page. That's free. I bet you could have a Pinterest board. That's free. And do you know what happens, especially if you have older employees? I'm a boomer. I'll be 59 next month. Do you know what happens if, with their permission, you end up posting on your Facebook page, hey, you know, Brianna is our employee of the month, blah, 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 blah. If it's a boomer and they're on that platform, they're going to share that link with everybody they know. Look, I was the employee of the month. How cool is this? Those things are free. Those things are free. You could put a sign in your lobby. You could put it up on your internal intranet, right? In your employee self-service, every month feature an employee. I think that's fantastic. That's kind of what Legal Monkeys has done. Legal Monkeys has what they call the appreciation board. They literally went to the Goodwill and they bought a picture frame, a glass picture frame. I think they're $5. And they got a grease pencil. And the first person they give it to, let's say I give it to Teddy, I can write on it and say, Teddy, thanks so much. I loved when you helped me with this project. I really appreciate it. And you put it on Teddy's desk. And when Teddy feels she's done with it, could be the same day, could be 2 days, could be a week, she erases it and she writes on it about somebody else and puts it on their desk. How amazing is that this little framed glass thing just floats around there? Now you have to be a physical office to do this, but this thing floats around. It's simple to implement, doesn't disturb your daily workflow, and it's gotten people engaged. You know, Screwfix has an open door policy with 360-degree feedback so strongly that all the managers have 1 hour a week where it's on their calendars that it's open door. Anybody in the company can email them, IM them, call them, or walk into their office and talk about anything, right up to the CEO. That's kind of an incredible policy. DreamWorks, you know, they give folks a little bit of a budget for you to decorate your cube or your office space. And then every month they have happy hour where people tour the office space and they put tickets in for which cube should win the prize for the best decorated that month. That's not a lot of money, is to give each employee $100 a year to decorate their space and to do something fun around it once a month. So these are just ways that you build connections, you build relationships with the people at work. Now, you're not going to sell your See Something Sweet on building engagement if you focus on paid vacations, or this free glass frame floating around with appreciation. You should know, though, what you're talking about. And when I talk with folks, I realize that a lot of folks don't understand employee engagement or realize there's 4 types. There's 4 types. So let's talk about the different types of
Hey, how are you?
Because if you're building an engagement program, oh, was that a question? I couldn't tell. If you're building an engagement program, you should know what type of engagement you're going for. So the first is engagement towards the organization. These are folks who really identify with the mission, vision, and values of the organization. I like to think of Doctors Without Borders, right? Have you heard of Médecins Sans Frontières? You really have to connect with their mission, vision, and values, because they can send people to some scary places to do their stuff. So I think the folks who are working for Doctors Without Borders probably really, really are engaged with the organization. You might be really, really engaged to performing duties with a high level of commitment, really just like right on top of it. I think of these folks as almost artisans. I grew up in upstate New York. My grandparents immigrated here from Italy in the 1900s. My dad stopped school at 8th grade, couldn't read or write well, worked in a stone quarry, but on the side, he was a carpenter, and he would build decks and redo kitchens and stuff like that. And I remember when I was little, my dad would put us in my mom and I in the truck, which was this old beater truck. And we would drive around neighborhoods, and he would in Italian point out, see that deck? I built that deck. And that deck, I built that because they talked to them and they told me, they hired me to build that deck. And we would go around, and I remember sitting in the truck thinking, oh my God, this is dreadful. Why are we driving around this neighborhood in this truck looking at these decks? I get it now. My dad was really engaged in his work. He was proud to say, I built that. And because I did a good job, I built that one too, and I built that one too. Think of the folks that you work with that really try to put quality in every part of their work. Look at this slide deck. The guy who works for me is named Tony, is our multimedia artist. Tony looks at every slide deck that I put together and brands it with the colors and the graphics and the fonts. And he's fussy. He's really, really fussy about the layout of stuff, but it's a really good thing. And there's times when he sees stuff and he says, oh, you can't use that. I'll work extra. I have to fix that. That can't go out like that. Because he's so concerned about performing his duties with a really high level of quality. You could be engaged towards the profession. I bet the folks on this call who regularly attend your chapter meetings, I bet the officers of your chapter are really engaged towards the profession. They really want to be known as, I'm a member of the Delaware chapter. I'm a member of SHRM. They're proud of that relationship. And then lastly, you could be really engaged because you're that collaborative type. Think about your work experience, or maybe outside of work. Have you ever had projects where you're in a conference room and I picture saying, okay, next week we have to do this project, blah, 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 blah. We're going to have Sally and Ralph and Jack, anybody else. And, Diane raises her hand. I'll do it. I really don't know how to do that, but I'll come and help. I'll try to help. I'll bring donuts. I can do this. Those are the folks who want to be part of the tribe. They feel connected to people. They're the first people who, when we had to leave the office for COVID, these are the folks who might have suffered the most, because part of work for them, besides the job, is the collaboration with other people. And doing that virtually can be tough. So when you're doing an engagement program, be sure you know why you're doing it and what you're trying to target. It could be more than one of these things, but there are these 4 things. Does that make sense? Nicole, I missed that. Nicole said, on Southwest, it's fun. They didn't sing the song, but they danced it when they were doing it for the safety check. How fun is that? I love that. So let's start with how does someone get engaged? It starts with the organization. I'm sure you've all can roll off your tongue mission, vision, values, right? But I think that's actually the wrong order. I think we should have done vision, mission, values. It's just harder to say. Let's talk about what is the vision, mission, and values. Vision should paint a picture. Literally, that's what the word is, right? Vision, visual, paint a picture. So imagine we're all together. Imagine we were all in the same physical space, and I'm the leader. And I said, hey guys, see this island we're on right here, this island? This is great. But what we really want to do is we want to get to that island way over there. That island, it has better tropical breezes, it has better fruits, it has less animals that'll eat or kill us. That's the island that we're trying to go to. That's the vision. That's the vision. If I asked any of you your vision, could you tell it to me and paint a picture? How many of you would say, oh yeah, I got it. It's written down right here. And you'd have to get a piece of paper and read it to me. It's wrong. You need to have them redo it. A vision should paint a picture of where you want to be in the next 3, 5, 7 years. It's a visual thing. I've got one for my little side crafty business that I told you about. I want to be the next Martha Stewart without jail time. That's easy. That's easy. Tell me in the chat room, when you think of Martha Stewart and her business, her organization, her brand, what are some of the things that you might think of besides the jail time? And you can unmute and yell it. Everybody's quiet. I've lost you all already. I didn't even want to know how many people then disconnected. Oh, food, cooking, pristine. Right, she says she made this pine cone wreath painted in gold and she did it herself. Meanwhile, she has 5,000 assistants who are painting gold pine cones. High-end recipes, decor, beautiful, Sports Illustrated. Right, she just made the cover of that. But if you think about it, you think of Martha Stewart as everything you said: magazines, product lines, TV shows, doing things much better than I could do. All I had to say was be the next Martha Stewart without jail time, and you could paint a picture of what that meant. That's a vision. The mission, if we go back to our island story, the mission is how we row the boat every day to get to the island. This is how we are rowing the boat. This is what we do every day to make progress towards that island. And the values are, how do we make tough decisions along the way? You could say in our boat example, our values are people first, then food, then stuff. So if we say, oh, hey, the boat is drifting, it's too heavy, we can't get towards that island, we have to get some stuff out of the boat, because of our values, we'd say ditch the stuff first. Then if that's not enough, lost weight, then ditch the food. Hopefully we don't have to ditch any of the people. But the values help you make tough decisions while you're doing your mission to get to your vision. Does that make sense? So look at your organization's vision. Does it paint a picture? Mission and values, and see if it makes sense. What's most important is, do your people understand the mission, vision, and values? Can they roll it off their tongue? Do they get a rough idea? That guy at Ted Montana's Grill, he understood the vision and the mission, I would argue, and even probably the values. Provide an exceptional dining experience, even though he was never trained about giving some crazy guy the paper from the table. Once you have a vision and a mission and a values, you can start to think about organizational goals. These are typically strategic objectives that were outlined by management. They should have very specific outcomes. In order to get to that island, we should reach the halfway point in 1 year. And the halfway point is right by that buoy, right? So organizational goals are trying to always keep folks in line with the vision. And the most important thing is that they're measurable, that you know you've accomplished them. Once you have those organizational goals, we can worry about how do we work together. So we're all in the boat, maybe more than one boat. Who does what? Who's the person who steers the boat? Who's the people who powers the boat? Who are the people who, look out front to make sure we're not going to hit a rock? And if you don't have clearly defined roles, you're going to have chaos on that boat. It's going to be a hot mess. I would argue that some of those clearly defined roles come from job descriptions. These are really formal accounts of your responsibilities, and they should include, knowledge, skills, and abilities, competencies, If you join me this afternoon for that free FMLA ADA seminar, a job description is very important when we start talking about ADA. The purpose of the job description, though, is really how do we all work together? And I bet some of you have them. And I love when I visit a real office, not virtual, but I go in person. And this is very stereotypical, don't hate me, but I love it when the HR person is kind of a boomer. And I love when I look behind them and you see cherry bookcases. There's usually a brass pot with a fake ficus tree coming out of it. And they've got white binders. They're all the same size. They're all labeled. All the labels are vertical and they all have the font facing the same way. I immediately know, okay, they're very organized. This is good. Can I say, do you have job descriptions? Can I see them? Sure, hold on. And they go reach to that binder and they come back with a book and they go, yep, here they are right here in this binder. And then I'm very careful to ask, when's the last time you reviewed them? Oh, I review them every year. Very good. How do you review them? Oh, I go through each one. Do you do it with the person who does the job? No, but I include the manager sometimes. Okay, let's go take one and talk to a manager. So you go, let's talk to the person, not the manager. We go talk to the person. We say, hey, George, look at this job description. This is you. What do you think? And they read it and say, it says use this piece of machinery. We haven't even had that machinery in 5 or 7 years. That's long gone. And then it says, do this with Sam. Sam retired last year. Job descriptions don't do any good unless they accurately reflect what the person is doing. Uh-oh, we just had some power brownouts. Tell me in the chat if I'm still connected out there. The UPS just beeped and went off and generator kicked in. Am I still out there? Whew. Whew. That beep sound of the UPS is always scary. So make sure that the job descriptions really reflect what the person does. Talk to the person doing the job. That's who should help you review them. That's who should help make sure they're accurate. So now let's think. We've got a vision, a mission, a values. We have organizational goals. We've got job descriptions and they're accurate and up to date. Now we have to plot a course to get to that island. Part of that is a path for development for the individual. Most folks, when they voluntarily leave an organization, if you ask management, why did they leave? They'll say they did it because of money. They got better money over there at that competitor. If you ask the people, most will say they had a better career path somewhere else. People like to know that they're on some kind of a path. It's an ongoing process. They're moving forward. This is how I like to think of it. How many of you remember Venn diagrams? Do you remember those things with the circles that overlap? Anybody remember drawing Venn diagrams? Take a piece of paper now out and I want you to draw 3 overlapping circles, kind of like a spade on playing cards. I think it's called a spade, or is it a club? I think it's clubs. Wait a minute. The one that looks like the 3-circled flower thing. So I want you to have 3 circles where all 3 make a little bit of an overlap in the center. And I want you to label them interests, abilities, and organizational needs. So organizational needs is where you're going to write down everything that your organization needs or values from a skill component, skill viewpoint. When you sit down with an individual, you're going to talk to them about, hey, what are you interested in? And let them fill out that circle. And then because you've done performance evaluations, because you can talk to them, because you know how to interview, figure out their abilities, what they're good at. The sweet spot, the absolute sweet spot for somebody is where all 3 interlap. What they're interested in is what they're good at and what the organization needs them to do. Tony, our graphic artist, has exactly those skills. He's super good at branding and visual design, and our company really needs branding and visual design, and he likes doing branding and visual design. But the last time I met with him one-on-one, he said, I'm also really interested in social media management. And that kind of surprised me. I never thought of that from my mixed media artist, my graphics person. But guess what? Delphia also needs social media management. I need someone to help me with my LinkedIn. So Tony didn't have the abilities though. So that's where you do training and development. Hey, Tony, would you like to take a course? Do you want to do it face-to-face, virtual, online, a book? What works for you? What you're trying to do is find something that somebody's interested in that they're not quite good at, that your organization needs, that you could train them at by making them better. So it ends up falling in the abilities bucket. And then you're going to put it in that sweet spot because you needed it, they wanted to do it, and you gave them training to get them good at it. Does that make sense? Does that 3 overlapping thing make sense to folks? You're trying to help them create a path to create that intersection in the future. Once you do that, it's time to start setting goals. And I love this quote from Scott Reed. This one step, choosing a goal and sticking to it changes everything. And I would argue if you write the goal down, you're more likely to achieve it. And if you write it down and tell someone else your goal, you're 6 times more likely to achieve that goal because you've made a public commitment to it. Why do you think in some support groups, they get people to sit in a circle and raise their hand and say, hi, my name is Joe, and I'm addicted to gardening, right? It's making that public statement. So how many of you have heard of SMART goals, right? You know what SMART goals are? This came out around 1981, and if you're a nerd like me, it actually was the director of corporate planning for the Washington Water Power Company that came up with this. They wrote a paper called There's a Smart Way to Write Management's Goals and Objectives. Can anybody in the chat, first person in the chat to tell me why SMART goals is outdated, wins a gift card? We don't say SMART goals anymore. What do we say? Anybody know? Anybody recently studied for the SHRM CP or SCP exam? Do you know your SHRM curriculum? Anybody Googling it right now like crazy? Okay, I don't have any winners. I'm going to tell you, here you go. SHRM changed it to be smarter. They added ER at the end. Evaluate and revisit. So if you're studying for SHRM, CP, or SCP, you'll know that throughout that curriculum, they're always asking you to measure, analyze, evaluate, monitor, so you can loop back and learn for the next time you do it. It's a cycle. So let's walk through these goals. What are smarter goals? It starts with being specific. Specific goals are concrete. They're detailed, they're focused, they're really well defined, they're action oriented. They're action oriented. I want you to do something. Now, I have a terrible memory. I can't remember what we had for dinner 2 nights ago. But when I was in 5th grade in upstate New York, I was in a play called The Parts of Speech. And my character was Herb the Verb. And I remember the song from Herb the Verb. Herb the Verb is a man of action. He's busy all the day through. He jumps, he glides, he wiggles, he rides, he does whatever you do. And I'm sorry, I can't sing at all. When you write a goal, I want you to think of Herb the Verb, right? A goal should say build blank, right? Develop blank. They should be action-oriented verbs. That's what starts out a goal, because you want somebody to get something done. And then from there, it has to be specific. Ask yourself questions like, what are they going to do? How are they supposed to do it? What's important to doing it? Who's going to be involved? When does it have to be done? These are all the little details. The big problem I have with, not you guys, of course, but for folks who purely identify just as HR professionals, and they don't do the business professional with expertise in HR, a lot of HR professionals, they're squishy. I don't like squishy. Be better at customer service. Be on time more often. Be late less often. That's squishy. That's squishy. I want you to improve your customer sat scores from where they are today of 9 to 10 within 6 months. That's specific. I want to lower the number of OSHA incidents from 10 to 5. I want a salesperson to meet or exceed $1 million in total sales. These are very, very specific things. I don't like when I see performance reviews, which to me are just an artifact of this process, where the questions are just squishy, right? They have to be specific, which means they have to be measurable. We like measurements. Measurements help you know that you're making progress, and they allow for course corrections along the way. About 5 years ago, I was diagnosed, maybe it's 7 now, as type 2 diabetic. And so I remember sitting in my doctor's office, and he's a nerd too. He's a research scientist. So he's kind of a nerd. And so he said, now, Joe, you've been diagnosed type 2 diabetic. You have to do a finger blood test and prick your blood. And I want you to measure your blood sugar at least after every meal. Other times during the day would be great. Make notes. You were working in the yard, whatever. I'm a nerd. So the first thing I think of where you have to measure stuff and track it is Excel. How bizarre is that? While he was telling me this, I'm not worried about the diabetes part. I'm like, how am I going to track this? I could have a spreadsheet. I'm going to have a column for the date, what the measurement was, my notes. And so I did it. And after about a month of tracking, I had it all on a spreadsheet. So I go see the doctor and I have a nice little report. I even had graphs where my blood sugar went up and down and all this jazz. So I hand him the report because I'm a nerd. And he looked at the front page and then put it aside. And he's like, so now let's talk about blank, blank, blank. And I'm like, wait a minute. You didn't even look. Did you not see the line graph on page 3? Page 3 had a line graph and you totally missed it. And he laughed and he said, Joe, those measurements aren't for me. They're for you. I know your blood sugar. I do an A1C test that gives me about a 3-month average. I want you to measure it because then you'll pay attention. If I eat this, it goes up. If I eat this, it goes down. Some people say the reason a program like Weight Watchers works is because you are continually asked to weigh in. You're taking a measurement. That measurement helps you stay focused on what you're trying to accomplish, and it helps you make course corrections along the way. It also helps you know if you've reached the goal. Have you crossed the finish line? You can't give somebody a goal that says increase sales. By how much? And then what happens is you have those awkward conversations where they did increase whatever they were supposed to increase, but really it wasn't enough to make you happy. So they think that you should be happy because they hit the goal, but you really didn't think they hit the goal. It's because the goal was squishy. Be concrete. What does it take to accomplish this thing? And I think there's only 3 types of measurements: milestones, metrics, and habits. Milestones are easy. They're a checklist. Tell me in the chat room, how many of you like making checklists? How many of you are the types of folks who list things out? Anybody out there like to list? Oh, wait a minute. You went too fast. Who was the first one who said like to list? Oh, and too quick. I can't tell. Somebody will have to tell me. Christine said it was my favorite. So any of you out there now, I have to remember, Christine, Tiff, look in the chat window. How many of you will make a list and you purposely look at it and make it even smaller because you want more things to check off? In fact, you even put stuff on the list you've already done just so you can immediately check it off. Natalie said yes. Natalie, I see you nodding. I'm going to send you a $25 gift card. Make sure Natalie, we get her email address. I used to have a list that said do laundry. That's a terrible checklist. Too big. Now it says do whites, do coloreds, do sheets and towels. And then you have to break it down. Take them from the laundry basket, wash them, dry them, fold them, put them away. It's a really big list, but boy, you get to check off a lot of things as you go, and that feels really good. People like little accomplishments along the way. If the goal is too big, it's too hard. You never get to check anything off. So all of you who are setting 1-year goals, they're too big. Quarterly goals are okay. Sometimes it's monthly goals, because a year is really far away and I don't get to check anything off. It's kind of a bummer, right? So milestones, it's a list. Metrics, these are things you can count. And when I first worked on goals, I missed the boat. I totally missed the boat because I always thought bigger is better. Hit $1 million in sales, but boy, more is better. Get 10 new customers, but boy, 15 is better. And then the first time I worked with an HR person, and said, hey, what's your goal? They said, lower my OSHA incidents from 10 to 5. And I thought, oh my God, I never thought where smaller is better. Some goals, smaller is better. And some goals, if you work in a call center, you know this, ranges are the key. Keep all your calls, 90% of your calls between 3 to 5 minutes. That's a range. So when you're thinking about things you can count, sometimes bigger is better, smaller is better, or you want a range. The last one is harder. Habits, that's a behavior we want to repeat over time. And psychologists are kind of all over the board about, you have to get the behavior right 80% of the time for at least a 3-month period. This is why you never want to set a goal on New Year's. I'm going to go to the gym starting tomorrow, every day now, brand new Joe, going to go to the gym every day. It's never going to work. I love carbs. And if you can fry it, I can eat it. I guarantee it. And I'm not going to a gym. So for me to suddenly say, go to the gym every day is not going to work. What I have to do is say, how about we go once every 2 weeks? And once you've done that successfully for a period of time, how about once a week? And you do that successfully for a week or two, and then how about 2 times a week? And after you do that for a couple of weeks, then 3 times a week. Habits have to build over time, and they have to have small rewards along the way. Okay, smarter, specific, measurable, attainable. A goal has to be something you can accomplish. It should be a little bit challenging, but not so challenging that it causes frustration. It can't be an aspiration or a vision. For those of you in the chat who talked about Martha Stewart, you can't suddenly say, this year, my holiday decorations are going to be as good or better than Martha Stewart's. That's probably not an attainable goal. It's an aspiration. Unless you have a team, it's not, and a lot of money, it's not going to happen. But how many of you have ever gotten a goal that was so trivial, you didn't even really pay attention to it, right? Somebody assigned you a goal and you're like, they're not serious about this. So if there's a sweet spot, it can't be too hard, but it can't be too easy. And it has to be relevant. You have to understand how it fits into the bigger picture. How does it help the organization meet its goals, or how does it help my personal growth goals? I call this connecting the dots. And it's hard for some employees to connect the dots. So in my organization, the example is Jared. Jared's a great employee. He's worked for me 20 years, and he's super smart, and he's a mentor. He teaches me all the time. He does our website. And I said, Jared, we need a new website. Got it. I want the products on our site, which are we sell HR software. I want them to be e-commerce pages, just like Amazon.com has a page for every product, a book. We need a page for all the pieces of software we sell. And before I could finish, he's like, are you insane? Nobody buys a $50,000 HR package because they go to the web, see it, put in a credit card, swipe here. Like e-commerce doesn't make sense for Delphia. Wait, Jared, here's the deal. Google ranks e-commerce sites higher in an organic search than it does non-e-commerce sites. So could you use an e-commerce engine that has all the stuff that e-commerce has hidden in the pages that humans can't read, but make the shopping cart invisible, make the add to cart button invisible? From a search engine like Google, it looks like products. But from a human perspective, it's just got a page about every product we sell, which is what we have now. And that might boost our search. You could actually see the gears turning in Jared's head. He went back, he started to rebuild our site. The next time we had a team meeting, he was like, look at this. This product is just a regular text page. This product looks like an e-commerce page, but only to Google search engine machines, not to humans. Look how much higher it's moved up in the ranks. Every week he came to team meetings with reports how much our products were moving up in Google search engine ranks, because he was able to connect the dots. This assignment of building our website using an e-commerce platform boosts our organic search, which boosts our sales, which helps Delphia hit its vision of a $10 million company in 1 year. Does that make sense? He had to have a hand connecting those dots. Have you ever had employees where you wanted to grab them and shake them and say, your job's important because it gets us customers, which makes us money. And if we have money, we get to keep you employed. Do you ever feel like you have to help them? I went a few months ago to Burger's Bagels. Do any of you have a Burger's bagel shop near you? I'm in Ohio now. I miss New York bagels. I love Burger's Bagels. I went on a Sunday. The line is out the door. 2 people are trying to make all these bagel things, cream cheese and lox on a bagel and a sandwich on a bagel. One person's standing all alone, way at the far end of the line at the cash register. And then there was a woman, who was trying to push a broom behind the 2 who were making sandwiches, picking up crumbs that fell from baskets of bagels behind them. It was an OSHA incident waiting to happen. These people are handling a knife, trying to cut a bagel, and she's pushing a broom right behind their feet. There's not a lot of space behind them. The line is out the door. People are leaving because the line's too long. So I get up, I place my order, fine. And then because I'm kind of a pain in the butt, I'm a PETA, I get to the cashier who seemed thrilled to not have a big pause between people. And I said, I'm sorry, but can I ask you, do you know how to make bagel sandwiches? Mm-hmm. Have you thought about stepping 10 feet down the line and helping make sandwiches? And then when the person moves down, you move down and ring them out and then go back. Mm-hmm. But I'm not allowed. You're not allowed. Why aren't you allowed? Oh, that the manager says when you work cashier, you just have to stay cashier. But there's big gaps between you have to help check somebody. I know it's crazy. And I said, can I just ask, who's the person behind them who's going to trip them with this broom? The manager. That's the manager? You're kidding me. Mm-hmm. And why are she sweeping at this moment? Because 10 o'clock every morning, you're supposed to sweep. So I had to say, excuse me, can I talk to the manager? So she comes over and I said, I understand you're the manager. Mm-hmm. Do you know how to make bagel sandwiches? Mm-hmm. Is there a reason you're not doing it now? That's not my job. I'm the manager. You know, you're losing business as walking out the door. You're about to cause an OSHA incident with this broom. Is there a chance you could sweep at 11 when the line's slow between breakfast and lunch? I could, but as the manager, I don't make sandwiches anymore. She's lost it. She shouldn't be the manager. No, I'm sorry. She should be fired. She has lost why what's relevant here. Keep customers happy. Sell bagel sandwiches. Don't cause an OSHA incident. She so pedantically follows the rules that she's lost sight of what's relevant, what the goal is. The goal is to make money in a safe environment and sell bagels. Do your folks get the rules? Do they just stick to the rules, or do they understand the vision, mission, and values? And then it has to be time bound. When you're setting a goal, there has to be a deadline for completion. That gives us a sense of urgency. The deadline has to be achievable and realistic. I'm not a fan of the Big Bang Theory approach, which is one big goal, one big deadline. They're building a massive McMansion across the street from me where I live. I've only seen the owner there once in a year, and they live in Columbus. Would you ever build a house and just say, hi, let me know when it's done, signed off on the plans, talk to you in a year or two? I've seen folks build houses through Facebook. You see pictures every day. They dug the hole, they moved the dirt, they built the foundation, they put up the walls, they've wired, right? That's because you don't believe in the Big Bang Theory approach. Yet some of our goals is, talk to you in a year, here's your goal, let's see where you do at the end of the year. You can't do that. You have to have little goals along the way, little time-bound deadlines. And when it comes to time-bound, I use the half-life theory of a deadline. This is tough for me to explain. I never seem to get it right. Let's say I approach you in January and your goal is to get something done in June. And we're negotiating it. We're talking about it. You might be able to say, Joe, I don't think I can do it in June. How about September? I'd say, okay, because I allow you to extend the deadline by half of how much time is left. So in January to June is 6 months, you can add 3 months. But if you come to me the beginning of May and say, oh, Joe, I can't hit June, it's going to be October. Oh, no, not happening. You have 1 month left till this was due, you can have 15 days, July 15th or June 15th, whatever. My theory is, as you get closer to a deadline, you should know how well you're progressing, so you could only ask for slippage by half as how much time is left. Does that make sense? I'm going to look to Susan. She has her camera on. Susan, nod if that half-life makes sense. I don't want to be surprised if I ask you to do something due in June, you start in January, and come a week before it's due, you say, I need 4 more months. There's no possible way. You just figured this out today? You've been working on it since January? And you're going to spring this on me today? I don't think so. So I use the half-life theory of deadlines. When you set a deadline, ask yourself the following questions. What's the earliest yet achievable and realistic date for this to be started and completed? And there are other things that could get in the way, or who else do we depend on? Those are the things you consider when you have to set a date. So let's pull all this together now. When you're doing goal setting, I want you to be able to anchor the goal. If you're writing goals in Word, add a column, Excel, add a column. For each goal, is this a strategic goal? You're doing this because it aligns with something that management wants done, cascading goals, think about that. Are you doing it because it's part of your job description, or are you doing it for personal growth? If you have a goal that you can't say it fits the strategic goals, it fits my job, or it's part of my growth plan, you shouldn't have that goal, or you're not understanding it. Something's wrong. What are the progress measures for that goal? And then I want you to tag it with what competencies and values would you exhibit by doing this goal? Here's why. Think about the end of the game when you do a performance review and you have the artifact, the document. I've seen so many performance review forms where there are questions, exhibits corporate values, demonstrates these 3 competencies. And managers just pull it out of the air. Yeah, trustworthy. I definitely think Rory is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, and kind. I'm going to give them a 5 out of 5. It's squishy. Instead, I want you to be able to say trustworthy. Rory, you had 3 other goals up here where you had the opportunity to demonstrate, exhibit being trustworthy. I'm not going to evaluate those goals. We did that up here in the form. I'm just going to look to those goals to see, did they really give me good examples of when you were trustworthy? That's why we tie goals to competencies and values, so that later on, we are less squishy when we have to evaluate competencies and values. Tell me who owns the goal. That should be a column. And tell me who has to help you with the goal. Because guess what? I can't look at everybody's names here. I'm going to scroll and try to see more names. Amanda has a goal, and I hope I say it right. Shanice, is it right, Shanice? Shanice, you're down as contributing to Amanda's goal. So when I review Amanda, I'm going to say, Amanda, you were supposed to get this goal done. How'd it go? Blah, 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 blah. And if Amanda says, didn't go very well, didn't make the goal, when I review Shanice, I want to be able to say, Shanice, Amanda had this goal of doing blank. You were supposed to contribute or help her along the way. Did you? Did you touch base with her? Were you there when she needed a hand? Sometimes we don't pay attention to the contributors. And some folks in your organization might be more of they may not own any goal by themselves. I tend to think of some admin folks that their whole goals are contributing to everybody else getting their stuff done. So make sure you identify the owner and the contributors. And please do this collaboratively. I want you to create goals in a collaborative environment. You sit down with the team member and you work through the goals. Don't go for buy-in. What happens with buy-in? People sit like this. Yep. That's what you're telling me to do. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, right. Not listening to him at all. You have to sit down together and work towards agreement and understanding from the start. And then I was at a SHRM conference when I put this up. Believe it or not, somebody waited like 20 minutes online to get to the microphone. And their first question was, so really team members just walk in and they set their goals and, do whatever they want, right? You think that's going to work? No. What are you thinking? It's like with kids. I hate to say it. When you sit down as the manager, it's not that the person has a clean slate. You're going to help guide them and direct them to the goals that are fitting with the organization. But it's a different process than just saying, okay, here, Shannon, here are your 3 goals for 2024. Any questions? Right? You collaborate on them. You make sure there's agreement right from the get-go about the deadline, the process, the contributors. That's how you do it in a collaborative environment. So now I want you to all have your chat window up. If anybody answers this, the first person to answer this question right, I'm going to give a $100 gift card to. So you better have your chat window up, you're focused, your fingers are on the keys, you're not multitasking in Outlook. Here you go, I'm going to show you a picture. When I show you this picture, the first person who correctly tells me the name of the guy, the name of the product, or their very famous tagline, I'll take any of those 3 things, gets a $100 gift card. Tiffany, my helper, Tiffany St. Cyr, are you ready? Are you watching the chat window?
Yes, I'm watching it.
Okay, the name of the product, the name of the guy, or the tagline. Ready, set, go. What is that? Who's that guy? If you're as old as I am, you remember him from infomercials. You might have seen the product. Oh, what? No, it's not a Colonel Sanders. It's not a toaster oven. What is that? Remember him, but not his name. Oh, Nicole. Oh, that's it. Who got it?
Christine
iPhone
was the first
13.
one and said,
Oh,
set it and forget it.
set it and forget it. This is the Ronco rotisserie. That's Ron Papel. And their motto was set it and forget it. I think Ron recently died, actually. I remember infomercials at 1 a.m. Do you remember infomercials on TV? Shanice says before your time. I think it is Shanice. I saw you on camera. So Ron Papel would get up in front of this room, typically women. It was kind of misogynistic. And he'd say, ladies, don't you want to have a good meal for your husbands at the end of the day? Of course, but you're too busy. You're working. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these chickens and we're going to put them on this rotisserie. We're going to put it in there, close the door. And then the whole audience would yell, what's next? Set it and forget it. And then Christine uses ours once a week. You would set it and forget it. And then you'd come home hours later, open that, and you'd have beautiful meal, rotisserie chicken for your family. Set it and forget it. That's Ron Popel. So congratulations to our $100 winner. Tiff will make sure you get your email out there in the chat for Tiff. That's the Ronco rotisserie. It is absolutely not what I want you to do with goal setting. You do not set them and forget them, but that's what we do. In January, we have this big annual goal setting meeting and everybody sits down with their employees and they write down their goals and they put them in a doc and everything. And then what do? Set it and forget it. It's like a crock pot. Don't open the lid for 6 months till June. And then we lift the lid off and we say, oh, it's time for the mid-year review. And then we do the mid-year review. And then what do? We put the lid back on, we close the door, we set it and forget it till the end of the year. This is not what you do with goal setting. You've got to set goals and then you've got to continually visit them. This is coaching. Coaching creates that climate for performance. It improves the likelihood that you're going to get what you want, right? You don't wait 6 months and then decide, hey, this didn't quite work out, right? You have to coach along the way. It improves the match between an employee's actual and then expected performance. The problem is, I don't think we train people how to coach. The typical path to becoming a manager is you did your job so well, we're going to make you the manager of everybody else who does that job. And that typically creates micromanagers because they really do know how to do the job of the people that report to them, so they can really micromanage it. Before I even show you the next slide, really think to yourself, do you train your managers for success? Do you teach them how to manage? And I don't mean manage by, this is how you approve time, this is how you approve expenses, this is how you schedule. Managers have to know how to coach. There are 4 dimensions of coaching. This is by work from Alice Johnson at MIT, and I love Alice's work. She says that whenever a manager is talking to a team member, they should be doing any of these 4 things: providing direction, improving performance, opening up possibility, or be a resource for removing obstacles. Let's go back to our boat example. Providing direction is when the manager says, oh, Christine, see, you're kind of a little bit to the left and the island is to the right. So if we could just change your direction a little bit, just shift a little bit to the right, we're going to go to that island. That's about providing direction. Improving performance. If any of you canoe, you know the J stroke. You put your oar in. If you're just paddling like this, you're not going to do very well. But you put the oar in, and as you pull back, you turn it and lift it out and make the letter J. That's called the power stroke. Improving performance is when a coach, which is above a manager, right? Manager, coach, or lead. A coach is able to tell their team member, hey, look, I noticed this is what you're doing. You might get some better results if you tried it like this. They're trying to improve performance or open up possibilities. This is the hardest one for managers. And I have a whole talk on how to be a better manager leader. There are 7 rules, but the first 3 are lose the ego, be humble, be curious. When a manager has a lot of ego, they don't know how to open up possibilities. Opening up possibilities is developing capabilities in an employee to solve problems and make decisions on their own. You do it by asking the right questions, challenging their thinking, offering other options, trying to expand their understanding of the situation. When you do that, you empower them to be part of the decision process, and they learn how to make better decisions on their own. Otherwise, you create the mother may I syndrome. If every time an employee has a problem, they come to you and say, I don't know how to do this. And you say, do it like this. I have a lot of ego. I've done this for 30 years. I'm not humble. Do it like this. Okay, they go away. Every time they hit a problem, they're going to come to you. Mother, may I do it like this? Can I do it like this? Should I do it like this? And then your manager, especially if they're a micromanager, gets frustrated. You're in a bad spiral. Instead, lose the ego, be humble, be curious. Okay, you're right. I see. As we're canoeing, look at that. There's a big rock. There's a huge rock right between us and the island we're trying to get to. I know it's in the way. What do you think we should do? We could paddle to the right of the rock. That's a good idea. My only concern is the tide is coming that way. It might smash us against the rocks, but that is a good option. Can you think of any others? We could go to the left of the rock. Oh, that's a good idea. I am concerned the tide is going to push us even further away from our island. Can you think of anything else? We could get on the rock and lift up the canoe and put it over the rock and drop it back in the water. That's also an excellent idea. So we have 3 excellent ideas. What one do you think is most likely to give us the results we want? Teach employees how to evaluate situations and make decisions. And then lastly, be a resource for removing obstacles. I noticed your oar has a crack. You need a new one. I noticed you maybe aren't getting the most out of paddling. Do you think some training would help? Oh, the boat's a little sluggish. How about waxing the bottom? So a good manager is always providing direction, improving performance, opening up possibilities, or removing obstacles. Teach them that. Because at the end of the day, when you do the artifact, your performance review, if anybody's surprised, the process failed. The process failed. Because if you started out with good goals and you were consistent, you had clear milestones, you coached people along the way, you were in the game. Think of what a coach does. You know, from my initial comments to Susan and the bird, I'm not a sports person, but a coach doesn't wait to sit there while watching the whole game, wait till the game's over and then say, now I'm going to tell you everything you did right and wrong. But that's what we do with the set it and forget it performance management model. We wait 6 months or a year to just look back, feedback, and tell you what you've done wrong. SHRM's new buzzword, by the way, is feed forward. A coach is in there during the game because what you're trying to do is change the outcome of the game. You're trying to give folks tips along the way to impact the outcome of the game. That's what performance management should be all about, impacting performance. Don't wait till it's over and review what happened. Get in the game and change it as you go. Does that make sense? That's why goal setting, good coaching, engages folks. They're part of the process. You're going to get better results. You've got this. You could listen to all this rambling I did today and say, oh my God, that's so hard. I don't think I can change it all. Start with one thing. The Buddha says a jug fills drop by drop. A jug fills drop by drop. Put a plan in place. And if you listen to what I shared today and said, yeah, we got to set better goals. They have to be specific. They have to be measurable. I have to teach people how to coach. Your direction is in line with contemporary HR thinking. And you can tell your leadership team you're working to improve the process you follow to improve performance. Participate in it, collaborate with folks, and refine it. Remember SHRM's loop there. Everything I've shared with you today, it's not a mystery. It's called continuous performance management. In the past, we set annual goals and you had one big assessment or maybe 2. And I love this quote, 1 or 2 ritualized meetings. That's the mid-year review and the end of the year review. And you documented it annually, and then you use that document to make big team-wide decisions. The future of performance management is short goals, multiple performance ratings as you go throughout the year, lots of feedback, regularly updated milestones, and managers who are empowered and accountable. Think about the tools, though, to get this done, right? This is hard to do in a Word doc. And there are tools out there that will get this done. I mentioned Maviva on every single slide. Maviva stands for Mission, Vision, and Values. It's a continuous performance management application I designed. I'm going to show it to you as an example, not to try to sell it to you. But look at this screenshot of Maviva. I bet pretty quickly you could tell me what Mary's goal is. It's to sell $625,000 in gross revenue. You can tell me the status. You can tell me where she is today. You can tell me who helped her. And 2 big dials instantly, you could bring this up any day and see exactly where you are. More importantly, Mary can bring it up any day and see exactly where she is. And it's the same with milestones. People like lists and they like checking things off. So capture that kind of data. Whatever tool you have, you'll get a better adoption rate if it's easier to use. Tools that are hard to use, people don't adopt. And gamify it a little bit. You know, I give gold trophies when you get stuff done. If you look in the upper right here, you know, this person doesn't have any accomplished goals in the last 6 months. They don't get any goals, no points. But in other places, they've got stars and check marks. They easily see a job description. They know what competencies are expected of them. I'm not saying Moviva is the right tool for you. I'm using this to give you an example of, think about the tools you use today. Are there ways you could get the tools to be more supportive of goal setting, of coaching, of continually knowing where I'm at and making it fun? So I just want to share a couple more things with you before we take open-ended questions. I know it's short notice, but this afternoon, today at 2 o'clock, so you have 1 hour from now, I'm giving a talk on intermittent leave, FMLA and ADA, the basics, the overlaps, the differences. Tiff put a link in that chat window. Here's my secret for you. If you can't attend live, but you want the content, still register, because everybody who's registered, I send them the PowerPoints and a link to the recording. And if you watch it at a later date, just tell me you watched it in an email and that 1 or 2 things you learned, and I'll give you the SHRM and HRCI recertification codes. So if you're interested in, hey, do I really have FMLA and ADA down pat? Check out this today or register anyway, and you'll get the recording. And if you're headed to SHRM, I'm doing a mega session on June 12th. So that's one of the big 5 to 10,000 person rooms, called 8 Reasons to Rethink the Annual Performance Review. And it's a lot of what we talked about today, right? If your company's not really all about something happen annually and your things, you know, happen at different times of the year, then why do you do just an annual review? Doesn't make sense. So we're going to share 8 reasons why you might want to rethink an annual process to be a more continuous performance management process. And you can reach out to me anytime. You can tell from that slide, that's my tanned, photoshopped, Tony does a great job graphic artist picture compared to this is the reality today. And I encourage you all to connect with me on LinkedIn, right? There's always value in building your professional network. So I think Tiff, I'm very grateful to have Tiff on my team. She's ahead of me setting things up with me like she is today to make sure that I give out gift cards and she captures who gets them. And then she cleans up behind me and sends you the codes and the gift cards and makes everything work. So thanks to Tiff for making this happen. And thanks to your chapter for inviting me to join you virtually today. Tell me in the chat room, what did you think? Did you leave with any ideas? Did any of this resonate with you? Are you like, I can't believe I sat through an hour of this? I even sang Herb the Verb for you. That's pretty special. We have to delete that out of the recording, Emma. We cannot have Herb the Verb be recorded anywhere. Tiffany's been waiting for a recording of Herb the Verb, so that has to
I don't know. I'm not that great of a video editor. I don't know. I might need to stay in.
No.
Yes, please leave it in. Please, please, please.
And you're welcome to unmute. I'd love to hear you if we allow unmuting, and tell me what you thought or where you're questioning or what's going through your heads, because we have like 10 minutes left.
Well, I want to say thank you, Joe. This was so fun and engaging, and how kind of you to send out all these gift cards. How cool.
Tiff, did you capture the emails of who we need for that?
Yes, I did.
She's so good. I don't want that in the recording either. I don't want that in the recording.
You got to leave that in the recording too, because I'm going to use that against him later.
There you go. Looks like everyone's saying thank you. I don't see any questions, but if someone does have a comment or question, feel free to unmute and we can chat about it.
You know, I lived off of Lane Avenue. Whoever iPhone 13 Pro is, they didn't put in their name. So iPhone 13 Pro graduated from, well, Ohio State. You graduated from the Ohio State University. I learned that when I moved here from New York. I live off Lane Avenue, about 3 miles from the Ohio State University. And my first exposure to sports was, why is traffic insane this Saturday? How come I can't get to my house? It's because all the crazies are trying to get to the stadium at the Ohio State University. And Shanice is too young to know Ron Popeil and The Ronco rotisserie, Shanice. She's about the Instant Pot. I can tell. Today's generation has an Instant Pot.
That's so funny. Who doesn't love a good infomercial though? Come on.
You know, you're lucky. Whoever won my $100 card, I missed the name. I used to give out instead a Ronco
It was
rotisserie.
Natalie.
Natalie, I used
Or
to
not
send
Natalie,
it.
sorry, Christine.
Christine, instead of sending the gift card, I used to send you a rotisserie like that. And one of my employees was like, people don't want a rotisserie. Please don't send rotisseries anymore. Can we just get a card?
I have two. My husband loves his Ronco.
You have
Loves his
two,
rotisserie.
Christine.
I have two because he was afraid the other one was going to break and he wouldn't have a backup.
And do you set it and forget it?
We sure do.
I love that. You made my day. Did you say Christine won the gift card, Tiff?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Oh my
Christine
God, you
did.
can go buy another one. I think I've seen him at the Goodwill for like $11.
Right. And my husband's the chef on top of it. So he uses it all the time.
Oh, Denise Burke is our iPhone 13, Tiff. Did you catch that in the chat?
Yes, I did.
So it'll take probably a week for me to get your certs out. We send you a nice PDF. It's 2 pages. There's one on each page. The code's on each page. I can't do it today because in an hour and 10 minutes, we're going live for FMLA. Any of you going to register? Do you want that FMLA content? I have to tell you, I learned a bunch because we all say 50 employees and they have to be within 75 miles of the workplace. If you want to be registered, Nasli, just make sure we get your email. We need your email to register you. Tiff will see that in the chat, I hope. But did you know it's not where their home office is if you have remote folks? That's not what counts for FMLA. It's where their work is assigned from. So if you have a bunch of employees all over the country, but they all get their work from the same manager, they're considered in that location from an FMLA perspective. So this stuff gets a little bit tricky. And then when FMLA overlaps with ADA, and then you throw in a little workers' comp on top of that, oh my God. So that's what we're doing in an hour and 9 minutes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joe. Good luck with the rest of your day and all your presentations. Hope all the technology works for you for the rest of the day.
No more power supply. When that power supply beeped, a part of me died.
Oh no, we didn't see a blip. We wouldn't have even known about it if you hadn't said anything. So
and my dog stayed asleep the whole time. I can't believe it.
Awesome. Well, we will say goodbye to you. Thank you so much. You were tremendous. We appreciate you being a supporter and engaging with us today over here at Delaware SHRM. So have a wonderful day.
Anything you need, reach out. When you said you're near a beach, I'm like, how come I'm not doing this in person?
Hey, you're welcome anytime. We love our beaches here.
Cool. Well, have a wonderful day, everybody, and a great weekend. Safe holidays.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Bye for now.
Bye.